May I just say wow. Just like amazing. The reception of the Junji Ito video was like insane. Absolutely insane. The praise was amazing. I went up like over 30 subs and like 20,000 views in a day. So like thank you. It means so much to me. Thank you for all your love and support. JumpStart and I were beyond happy, and as promised, I'll start reviewing the Junji Ito stories. Starting off with my favorite Junji Ito story, and a criminally underrated one at that. His Lovecraftian space horror, Hellstar Remina. To summarize the plot, so you have some background information, this manga starts off with a Japanese astronomer in an observatory peering into his telescope one night. He becomes the first person to witness a planet emerging from a wormhole. He names the planet after his daughter, Remina, and both become world famous thanks to the unprecedented discovery. However, things take a turn for the worse when the planet enters a collision course with Earth and the stars along the way seem to be disappearing. This story by far is my favorite Junji Ito story. A great story and amazing nightmarishly gruesome images, but mostly for the many themes and critiques the story depicts on our society. Remina, while on the surface a nightmarish tale of spacefaring evil, also turns its hungry gaze on society's celebrity obsession. In a story when Professor Ugaro discovers the planet which he names Remina after his daughter, it is discovered both she and the planet are 16 years old, a coincidence that elevates the young woman to stardom. Her fame comes at a price, however, as she is hoarded by the media and adoring fans. Meanwhile, scientists notice that planet Remina is acting rather strange, sometimes exceeding the speed of light, as it moves erratically through space. A troubling observation is raised. Stars that planet Remina approaches disappear from the sky. Eventually, Remina leans into her newfound popularity and takes up work in the showbiz. Her fame rises. Her namesake planet turns its attention to Earth. When the news breaks, the swarming, panicked masses of people point their finger at Remina herself, linking her and her father to their inevitable demise. This story critiques society's deep obsession with celebrity culture quite vividly. Although exaggerated greatly, we can link it back to that fundamental critique. Junji Ito masterfully depicts this crazed obsession, twisted into something terrible and gruesome. Like most of his works, he takes the normal and mundane, twisting and contorting it into a nightmarish horror. Us, as humans, are naturally hypercritical of ourselves. As we obsess over celebrities, we envy them and see them as a better version of ourselves. So when they mess up, we are quick to judge and criticize them, projecting our insecurities and critical analysis of ourselves on them. So when they hear and see the planet and the destruction of their world, they instantly turn their attention to killing Remina, as they believe she brought the planet there. Their fear of death and envy over outworldly attention mix into a brutal desire to end her life, judging her of a crime she didn't even commit, but they believe she did. Just as we are quick to put celebrities down because we are disappointed when we find out they are just as flawed as us, they are quick to put Remina down because of her crime, her flaw. People genuinely want to live as long as possible, but they know they will die, and this is potentially very disturbing. So humans do the best they can. They invest their time in meaning systems that will prevail after they die. In other words, we love celebrities because they are an integral part of culture. They have made it into the worldview we are so entrenched in. By worshipping them, we feel as if we are participating in this hugely important cause/belief system. And that makes us feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and like our life matters, and in turn, death doesn't sting as much. They worship Remina first with praise, and then when fear sets in, they betray her and sacrifice her for self-preservation. This parallels the crucifixion of Jesus, as they put him on a cross just as they put Remina on a cross. Just as Judas feared for his life and betrayed Jesus, they took out their fear by trying to crucify her. Just as Judas did it for a bag of silver, they do it for a false hope of self-preservation. Just as Jesus was charged with a crime he didn't commit, she is charged with a crime she didn't commit. She becomes a Jesus figure to these people. Two characters try and save her: Oyasumi, her manager, and a vagrant who turns out to be the disowned son of her sponsors and a failed astronaut. Both of these characters, in some sense, represent Jesus' disciples. Now, before going further, although I am religious, I'm not saying Junji Ito is trying to push the message of Christianity. Rather, it is something more of a parallel, both having put their lives on the line just as Jesus' disciples put their lives on the line for Jesus. Yasumi, the former, in my opinion, represents Peter, who was killed for preaching, just as Yasumi is killed protecting Remina. Just as Peter was asked to be crucified upside down, believing he had failed Jesus, Yasumi fails to save Remina, and it is left up to the vagrant. The vagrant, on the other hand, represents John, the only known disciple to have survived until old age. John is the only one to succeed in preaching, just as the vagrant succeeded in saving Remina. Just as John was exiled to finish the New Testament, the vagrant is exiled in a sense to the bomb shelter with Remina and a surviving family, as the planet is eaten up by Remina. Just as John was to die a natural death in exile, the vagrant, along with Remina and the family, are to die a natural death of starvation. Just as Hellstar Remina parallels the crucifixion of Jesus and highlights our celebrity-obsessed culture, it is after all a cosmic horror and is inspired by the work of H.P. Lovecraft. Ito's exploration of evil from beyond the stars is a rare treat for fans. The threats that appear most often in Ito's works typically reside within humans, from Tomei's killer love to Uzumaki's very down-to-earth spirals, and the often memed The Enigma of Amagari Fault. But cosmic horror isn't necessarily defined by taking place in space, or being that of space. Rather, the concept of cosmic horror, exemplified in Remina and Lovecraft classics such as The Call of Cthulhu, involves creating a powerful sense of inescapable dread beyond the understanding of us mere mortals. Most of Ito's work falls into this category, whether the threat is of land-based or intergalactic alternate dimensional origin. This sense of inevitable demise scares them. This is then repeated in many of Ito's stories, that the characters are doomed to confront their horror and doomed to suffer a terrible fate, just as the people suffer the fate of the world being destroyed and eaten up by planet Remina. Remina herself suffers a fate of one day dying from hunger. She looks at the world she once called home and can't help but cry. She, just as the reader, feels a sense of hopelessness. She's doomed to die, just like all the characters are doomed to die, whatever their fate be. No one is safe from their fate, even the main character. She's like everyone else. Just as the celebrities who worship, everyone dies. This is seen in many of H.P. Lovecraft's stories. The characters are all doomed to suffer a terrible fate. Just as Remina continues to devour the planets, the outer gods continue to sleep, one day to wake and take the world as theirs. And as the astronomers happened to look at Remina, and it looked back, the fly flied past, and it noticed. As Friedrich Nietzsche once said, beware that, when fighting monsters, that you yourself do not become a monster, for when you gaze into the abyss shall gaze back at you. Planet Remina is one of the most visually impressive stories of Junji Ito, and the story has more heart to it than any other single Junji Ito work. I mean, sure, that is my opinion, but there's so much good here, and so little that I can complain about. It has a premise which is much more terrifying than any of his other works, and it is for that reason Hellstar Remina is my favorite Junji Ito story. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I know you're all expecting something like Uzumaki or Gyo, but I really wanted to talk about one of my favorite stories first, you know? Well, I hope you guys enjoy this. This has been my favorite one to make. I hope you guys like the idea. Thank you again for the positive reception of the Junji Ito video. I really am happy of what happened. Remember guys, to stay safe and wash your hands. And remember to not look at the stars, or else they will look back at you.